Here is my disclaimer. The following information was obtained from historical records, eyewitness accounts, other information sources, and including my own opinion. Since I was not always there at the time to verify it, it may or may not be correct. Today we will present an overview of some of the quickest production street cars of the 1960s. For this video we are defining quick as the 0 to 60 times. So for all you guys that are brand loyal, please keep in mind there are a lot of variables to these tests and times, like was it hot or cold outside when they tested, did the car they test have 60 or 70 series tires on it, did they let any air out of the tires for better grip or just ran it the way they got it off the lot, was the gas tank full or almost empty when they tested, was the guy driving 160 or 260 pounds, did the car have a limited slip rear end and how was it geared? Was the car set up and tuned by the factory just for these tests, or did they just get it from a local dealer right off the lot? So we can only go by the test results given and the options on the cars they tested. For this video we are simply going to go by the recorded 0 to 60 times that were published at the time. So let's look at some of the quickest production cars of the 1960s. There are some ties on the list and some of them may surprise you. First on the list with a 5.3 second 0 to 60 time was the 1969 Chevrolet Corvette with the 427 engine with the tri-power setup. It made 435 horsepower. The car weighed 3,450 pounds. It ran a 13.8 second quarter mile at 106.8 miles per hour with a top speed of 138 miles per hour. It had a base price of $4,895 and the price as tested here was $6,573. What's interesting about these old spec listings is it shows what the price of options were. The 427 engine option was $437, the 4-speed close ratio transmission was $184 and the radio was $278. I would have told the salesman forget the radio and I'll take the engine and transmission option. Also at 5.3 seconds is the 1968 Chevrolet Camaro Z28. It has a 302 making 290 horsepower and a 4-speed transmission. They show the test weight of 3,695 pounds. The price as tested was $4,435. It ran a 14.9 at 100 miles per hour in the quarter mile and it shows a top speed of 132 miles per hour. When looking at the options, you could have ordered this car with 456 gears. I would have told the salesman, put it on the order. Clocking in at 5.3 seconds is the 1966 Plymouth Satellite with a 426 Hemi making 425 horsepower. I read whether the Hemi option ran about $1,000. The car tested had an automatic transmission with 323 gears in a limited slip rear end. It weighed 4,350 pounds as tested. This car was not light. It cost $4,360. It ran a 13.8 at 104 miles per hour in the quarter mile. Again at 5.3 seconds at 0 to 60 miles per hour is the 1964 Porsche 904, the only non-American engine car on the list. It had a 2-liter 4-cylinder that made 180 horsepower with a 5-speed manual transmission. I could not find the exact weight, but I read one article where it said it weighed under 1,500 pounds. It cost $7,425. It had a top speed of about 150 miles per hour. Running 5.3 seconds at 0 to 60 is the 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429. The Boss 429 engine made 375 horsepower and had a 4-speed transmission. It weighed 3,560 pounds. It had a limited slip rear end with 390 gears. It ran a 1334 at 112 miles per hour in the quarter mile. There is a company in Texas that reproduces these cars complete using all new parts. With this next car, the 0 to 60 time drops down to 5.2 seconds. The 1965 Mustang with a high output 289 made 271 horsepower. It had a 4-speed transmission and the rear end had 411 gears. It weighed 3,175 pounds as tested. It ran a 14 flat at 100 miles per hour in the quarter mile. It cost $3,695 as tested. Here we drop down again. The 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner stops the clock running 0 to 60 at 5.1 seconds. The car tested had a 426 Hemi making 425 horsepower with a 4-speed transmission. Base price for the coupe was $2,945. It weighed 3,902 pounds. I saw several quarter-mile times, but the quickest one shown was 13:32 at 107.7 miles per hour. Also at 5.1 seconds was the street version of the 1967 Ford GT40 Mark III. They didn't make very many of these cars, so if you have one in your garage, it's like gold, they sell for crazy money today. The MSRP in 1967 was $18,000. The Mark III was a more streetable version than its predecessors. It had a 289 Ford that made 306 horsepower with a 5-speed transmission. It weighed 2,339 pounds. From what I was able to find out, it ran a 13.6 quarter-mile and had a top speed of 160 miles per hour. The next car has broke into the 4-second barrier. At 4.8 seconds, the 1968 Dodge Charger with a 426 Hemi. It makes 425 horsepower and has a 3-speed automatic transmission. It has a curb weight of 4,035 pounds. The quarter-mile time shows a 13.5 at 105 miles per hour. It came with a 19-gallon gas tank, with two 4-barrel carburetors and rated at 8 to 10 miles per gallon. This is not a road trip kind of a car. Dropping down once again is the 1967 Chevrolet 427 Corvette clocking in at 4.7 seconds. The L71 solid lifter tri-power engine made 435 horsepower. Base price was $4,388. You could order 6 different engine combinations with this car. The L71 option was $437. It weighed 3,626 pounds with the big block engine. It ran a 13.6 quarter-mile. This next car was tested by several major magazines in 1964, and they all had questions about it. From what I read, they said Pontiac was known for having its engineers set up and tune cars before giving them to the magazines to test. But it may have been they just didn't want to believe how good this car really was. Now keep in mind, I wasn't there, so I don't know what's really true and what is not. So with all that being said, at 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds we have the 1964 Pontiac GTO. The 389 tri-powered engine made 348 horsepower and had a 4-speed manual transmission. The car cost $3,371 and weighed in at 3,485 pounds. From 0 to 100 miles per hour it clocked 11.8 seconds and ran a 13.1 at 115 miles per hour in the quarter mile. This was the car some say started the muscle car era. Last but certainly not least is the quickest car on the list. The 1965 Ford Shelby 427 Cobra clocks in a 0 to 60 time of 4.3 seconds. The 2-carburetor 427 Ford engine made 485 horsepower. It cost $7,000 and weighed 2,529 pounds. From 0 to 100 miles per hour it ran it in 8.8 seconds. In the quarter mile it ran a 12.2 at 118 miles per hour. Top speed was 185 miles per hour. Leave it to Carroll Shelby to have the quickest and fastest production car of the 1960s. It's unbelievable what this man did with his life. This video showed an overview of some of the quickest production street cars of the 1960s. So I'll close with this. When you are talking about 0 to 60, 1/8 mile or even quarter mile times, as you look at the cars in this video it proves, it's not always just about the horsepower, but how the people that built the cars utilized it. Please comment below. As always, thanks for watching.